Hello my aqua friends, my name's Nicole and today we're going to do a fun forest scene with some leaves. Some of the brushes that I'm going to be using is a flat brush for the wash. We're going to use angular brushes to make the leaves. I do have a round brush to do the background light effects, and I'm only using a very limited palette today. I'm using leaf green, bamboo green, and a cerulean blue. I swatched it out here, and I do like the brightness of the colors. They're very cheery, and I want a very cheery scene. So, of course, we have our water. We're going to start off by wetting our paper really, really well. And, of course, you also need some paper towel. I like to tape my paper down so that I have a nice, clean white border. I think it looks pretty. So I'm taking my time to wet the background because I want a lot of time to put down my colors and then to lift certain areas where there's light shining through. This is going to be a two-layer painting, the background layer and then the foreground leaves layer. So starting off with my lightest colors, I'm going to switch to my round brush. And I'm going to put in the parts of the sky that are shining through. And there is like a bokeh effect in the background. So I'm painting just in a very loose circular manner. Now I'm going to switch to my lightest green. This is called leaf green. I'm using Holbein watercolors. I do love Holbein. They're great for beginners because they don't have any additives that make the watercolor spread. This is good if you are just learning because you'll have more control over the way the watercolors get put on. They won't, get away from you quite as much as other brands. Other brands, when you put it down, it'll just spread. And it might spread a little bit more than what you would like it to do. If you're a loose painter, you'll probably love to paint with that type of watercolor. I tend to be a tighter painter, more kind of realistic. I do love the way loose watercolors look. It's just something I have a hard time, I guess, letting go of control. But I do have some Daniel Smiths. They do spread faster, but oh my gosh, their pigments are gorgeous. And lately I am trying to loosen up and paint in a more looser manner. And actually I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So I'm going to come in with this stronger green color. Another good color to use, just use whichever greens that you have. You can make your own green by mixing yellow and blue together as well. So really, all you need is a primary colors, and you can make any color. So I'm mimicking those circular shapes that I see, those bokeh kind of effects, just by painting them in with a brush. So you don't need a circular stamper. I do have one because I might lift in some areas, but just know that you don't need it and that you can get the effects by lifting in other ways. So we are going to further lift these circles with just a damp brush. We're going to go back in and lift some areas. So this is kind of pretty. You got some lighter colors shining through in the sky. And we still have to put our leaves in, so I can't go too dark here, but there's lots of leaves in this bottom section. So you see our paper is still nice and damp. I do want to come in with these really, really greeny colors. Bright green. I'm going to add more of that color in there. So I'm just adding more punches of color because I can. My paper is still really nice and damp. Now at this point, my water's pretty dirty. I'm gonna change it out with some fresh water. And we're gonna lift. And I'm gonna use my damp brush to do that. So just in a circular fashion, we're gonna lift some areas. After I go back in to the area, I am gonna rinse out my brush with each lifting. And notice I'm just using my brush in a circular fashion to lift. So you see you don't need the stampers. This also gives a very soft effect without the hard edges that the stamper will give you. I love this effect. I also like some hard edges, some definition, so I might give it a try and use both techniques here today. I do love these circular shapes. I love the pattern. This repetition of shapes is an interesting composition. So I'm going to come in with this stamper. I actually have to dampen it a little bit. And where it's really wet, I'm going to try pulling up a few things. So it's really nice to also overlap the circle shapes. Gives it some more depth in your painting. So wherever I want to kind of add a little bit more light, I'm just going to go back in and finish off with my dauber. But you could also go back in with your paintbrush like I was doing. So I do have some nice light coming through in these areas where I've lifted. Pretty happy with that. Once you're satisfied with the way your background is looking, then we're going to let the whole thing dry, and then we're going to come in and do the foreground leaves. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys on a scrap piece of paper how I'm going to make these leaves. They're going to be two-toned. I'm going to use both colors of green, my leaf green and the bamboo green. This will make a gradiated type of wash, and you'll have those two tones in the leaf. Look how pretty that is. So basically you see what I did, that tip down, put pressure, and when you come up, you're going to release the pressure and you get the very tip of the leaf. And it makes the perfect little leaf shape. So I'm sort of dipping my brush in both, like I said, so that you'll have two different colors there for some variation. You can make some leaves a little more lighter and some a little more darker, depending on how much of the pigment that you pick up. Now I did forget about the branch part, so we will be using a third color. This is sepia, and with a round brush, I am just drawing in my branches. Now I'm doing it in segments. I find that this does have a more natural effect when you do shorter strokes like this. I gave myself a roadmap by these tiny little bifurcation marks that I made with my pencil, so I know where I want to put my branches. So with that sepia, take your time and make some segments of the branches and pull out that color to all the areas where you want the leaves to go to. Now for the leaves, I'm starting off with my two different greens like I just showed you on the practice paper. And we're just going to start putting in all those lovely spring green leaves. This is such a cheerful painting. It's very springy, and everything here in Pennsylvania is just in full bloom, and it's just a gorgeous time of year. So in that bottom corner where there's quite a few leaves, I am adding a whole bunch in different directions. Now if your paints start to dry out, just give them another little spritz like I did. So I'm reloading my brush, and sometimes I want the green leaves to be a lot more lighter where the light is shining through, so you can vary those colors. And some leaves, notice that I'm varying the size as well. So some you'll have smaller leaves. The ones on the top part of the branch are going to be a lot larger. And to make them larger, you're going to have more pressure on your angled brush. So the more you press down, the larger the leaf will be. And you can go over it like I did, just right there. If you want to refine the shape or you want it bigger, just go right back over your leaf. That's a nice big juicy one there. So it's a lot of fun. I would recommend practicing the leaf shapes on a scrap piece of paper like I did. And, just do a whole row of them, and you'll be able to get down that stroke and practice the two different colors as well. So I'm going to add a few more little branch marks where I need to attach my leaves. And I'm using a fine tip number 6 or a number 4 brush, as long as it's kind of like a detail brush. These black velvet silver brushes, they're fantastic. They have the finest point, and they do hold a lot of water, so you could paint with them for a really long time without having to dip your brush back into the paint. So that's it. It's just a very simple, beginner-friendly project. It's very cheerful for the springtime, and this would make a great card as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and I'll see you next week.